Good evening. I'm your host, Sam Matheny, and alongside me is my co-host, Matt Bruzas. We ask you to please excuse our momentary interruption of sports from your regular daily schedule. Let's get right into it. The pandemic has hit many sports leagues hard, canceling or shortening seasons. This has led to many leagues scrambling to find a new way of revenue. One way leagues are trending towards are allowing ads to be on players' jerseys. Should they allow it?
I think they should, but I think they should do it to some degree. But I think that they should keep the integrity of the jerseys, but they should also make it look good. Fans will have an outrage if they have all these ads on the jerseys and it doesn't look good. I think that if you have to make sure that you only make it to 2 or 3, maybe 4 ads, so I think that they can get some sort of revenue to help out these leagues. The NHL is losing billions for playing this season because of the loss of fans and loss of all the other forms of revenue that normally they have. So I think that this is one way that they can generate that.
I think they're ugly. I think they're just disgusting to have on jerseys, especially if you look at the MLS. They have like Kia or Xbox, one of those logos right in the middle of the jersey. I don't like that. I think it promotes the company more than it's promoting the sport.
But I also think that athletes are wearing Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. Why would that be any different than Xbox or any other brand?
I think it's because the team's embarking it and they're deciding to put it on their jerseys. I think whatever the players wear is their choice, but their jersey is not their choice. They have to wear their jersey. It's a mandate by their league.
Yeah, but you're still wearing Nike and Under Armour and Adidas, and you're still wearing those brands. You're making sure that these teams and these companies these leagues have an endorsement with that brand, and so you're still getting money by that. That's still an advertisement, or that's still an ad on the jersey.
Well, another point I wanted to bring up is if the situation in the NBA worsens, which doesn't look like it's going to be on the horizon because of how well the NBA is doing, they may choose to lean towards more advertising on those jerseys. And that could lead to things such as championship trophies having brands on them. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah,
but I think that it could help them, but I think you're still bringing in the revenue with the All-Star game and all the slam dunk contest. But I also think that I don't think it's going to get to that point because then you're violating the integrity of the NBA. And I also think that if you are considering putting jerseys on, putting ads on jerseys, and I think you can do it in a cool way where it gets the fans enticed by that jersey. The NBA is already going to different alternate jerseys. Like the Bucks have a blue jersey. Like I think that's not even their color, and yet they're doing that jersey. They can easily find a way to find companies that have that color in their brand or logo, and then make money off of that as well.
Well, talking about NASCAR and the Pro Bowling Association, what do you think about that in terms of ads?
I think they're going to be the guinea pig for how all these other teams do it. They're doing it in a way where their jerseys and their polos look good. The NASCAR jumpsuits, people are attracted to them and see what kind of sponsors they got on them. Same with bowling. Like they've got these really cool colorways and really cool things. I think that's a great way for all these other leagues to get forms of revenue.
Next up, the future of boxing and celebrity matches. We'll be right back. Please excuse this commercial break.
Warhawks know what it takes to become champions. At the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, our student athletes pursue excellence with a determination that inspires everyone on campus. Warhawks are smart. Warhawks are strong. Warhawks value service. We prepare our student athletes for life after college. The University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Come be part of the Warhawk family.
UWW-TV has been an important part of the campus and community since 1980.
Not only providing on-air learning opportunities for broadcast journalists and electronic media production students,
but educating and entertaining our audiences with award-winning news, live sports coverage, original programming,
as well as dedicating the mission to developing creative collaborations throughout campus.
For more information, visit our website, our 24/7 stream, and like us on Facebook.
Check us out because you gotta see what's on UWW-TV.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
Here at UW Whitewater Intramural Sports, we have a motto: a sport for everyone and everyone in a sport.
Come on!
Stepped it anyways. Oh, she got that. Oh, they're going to count it.
Had a blast. Always have fun at intramurals.
Every day we strive to go above and beyond that goal by providing healthy exercise, promoting leisure education, and giving students that competitive atmosphere they are looking for.
Yes! Yes!
It's exciting. Brings me back to those high school days with Friday Night Lights.
With our 25 different intramural sports offered, we guarantee that we have a sport for you. Go to our website and find your sport today.
While paper facial coverings can only be used once, other facial coverings should be washed after every use to reduce the risk of spreading germs. Some facial coverings can be laundered, but washing them with soap and water in the bathroom is also an effective and efficient method for disinfecting. The students shown here wore their facial covering until they entered the bathroom, thoroughly washed it with dish soap and water, and brought it to their room to air dry. Always allow your mask to dry completely before reuse. If you do not have dish soap at your disposal, please use the provided hand soap in the community bathrooms.
Welcome back to Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from Your Regular Daily Schedule. Celebrity boxing matches such as Mayweather vs. McGregor and KSI vs. Logan Paul have been very successful financially. But does it help the sport in the long run as we see more and more celebrity matches being announced?
I think it could, but I'm going to disagree, and I don't think it will, because I think you're then taking away from the tradition and the integrity of boxing. Looking at what the sport has done over the past years, I think that they really make an emphasis when they have celebrities coming from the ground up, training as hard as they can, busting their tail, and making the sport of boxing being successful. And I think that that's only taken away from what others can do in the sport.
I disagree. I think it's entertaining as heck. I mean, think about it. It creates more revenue for the boxers and the PBA itself. Plus, boxing is on the decline. I think this is the saving grace for the sport, and I think it's actually helping get their viewership back up.
Yes, but then if you want that, I think that's for another different place and time. I think that there's a place where you can have that. If you want, say for Logan Paul, for instance, I think you do that on YouTube, and I think then you get the revenue that way. But I think that the integrity of boxing should be maintained with the boxers who put in the training, put in the hard-earned hours, and figure it out in the ring.
Do you think it's disrespectful to professional boxers seeing celebrities box?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think it also motivates them even more, because you're seeing that this guy who was a social media influencer or someone who's just doing it for fun or do the entertainment aspect or bragging rights, I think that that's only motivating them more, and they're making more of an impact and trying to be better and better influence the sport.
No, I disagree. The sole purpose of boxing is to entertain their fans. Don't think about the money for a second. Think about the entertainment. The whole purpose of this whole sport is to make things look cool, to intrigue the viewer. And I think that being upset about your sport being entertaining is ridiculous.
Yeah, but there's not only like two boxers. I think there's more boxers, and there's more people. If you really look in depth in all the boxers that there are more boxers to make an impact, make entertainment from the viewer, and they attract more viewers. I think the boxers themselves can do more, and they're seeing all these celebrities get more viewers. So I think the more emphasis is put on the boxer.
But will fans stick around after their favorite celeb is done boxing?
The fans probably won't, but then PBA and the UFC and all those other boxers to make sure that they have great cards and card that people want to see, and so the viewer is tuned in for the entire match and the entirety of all the boxing matches.
I think they'll stick around. I think it actually brings, like I said earlier, more entertainment equals more viewership. If you have boxers out here who, for lack of a better term, they're not experienced, that just creates more money and revenue for the sport, and it'll make it look even cooler.
Yes, but if the main event is the first boxing match, then if people want to only see that, then they're going to tune out.
But isn't the main event supposed to be at the end? That's why I'm kind of confused.
Yes, but then if they have all these main event matches or trying to get more people in, you're going to have more and more of the best matches. And so if your favorite match is the first one, then you wouldn't be watching the entirety of the match.
That's a fair point you bring up. You know, I just want to know your opinion on this though. Is it a fad, or will this be a sustaining revenue for boxing?
I think it'll be sustained revenue because it's bringing a new market into the boxing world other than what has already been there. So I think that this could increase revenue, definitely.
Next up, steroids in the Baseball Hall of Fame. After that, the future of sports gambling in the USA. We'll be right back with more PEOMIOSFYRDS.
Us on. Flip them off. 91.7 WSUW. 91.7 is a student-run radio station serving the Whitewater area with a variety of original programs, live sports broadcasting, community events, and more. So turn us on. 91.7 FM. Or stream us live at 917theedge.com.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
As an Army ROTC cadet at Whitewater, you have the opportunity to develop into a great leader while learning and applying the Army values to your everyday life. Within ROTC, you have the chance to travel overseas in the CULP program to train with other militaries, attend many elite Army schools such as Airborne and Combat Diver, and you have the opportunity to attend conferences and guest lectures by some of the Army's top-ranking officers. Our Warhawk cadets participate in many extracurricular activities, Division III sports, Greek life, intramural sports, among many other team building and community service events. Being a cadet at Whitewater is more than just being part of the Army. It's also about being active members in our community and coming together to form a family atmosphere. Anyone who wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves while developing themselves professionally should consider UW Whitewater ROTC. To sign up for UW Whitewater ROTC, go to the 4th floor of McCutcheon Hall to room 417.
the health and safety of those living on campus, all residence hall water fountains have been turned off. However, the refill component remains active, so students can fill up their water bottles hands-free.
Welcome back to PEOMIOSFYRDS. The Baseball Hall of Fame does take drug use in their consideration of players, but it does not outright disqualify them for the Hall of Fame ballot. Does even considering known steroid users devalue it, and is it a slap in the face for players who didn't cheat?
I think yes, but it's to some degree. But I think it's all about the voters' perception of who gets in and who doesn't. But we've seen Barry Bonds try and get into the Hall of Fame for 10 plus years now, and he hasn't gotten in. But I think if you look on the flip side of that, it's all about stats. But I think then it's really going to breaking down the basics and looking at how much PED use did you use, did you get caught, what were your stats, and I really think that it all goes down to what they let in and what they don't.
Matt, that's ridiculous. Everybody was juiced back in the day. Are you kidding me? Like, these guys, the steroids don't necessarily help you swing a bat. They don't help you have better plate discipline and draw walks. What it does is it revitalizes your muscles, the ones that you lose when you're not lifting during that long, strenuous season. And I don't think it affects your patience when you hit the ball or anything. I think steroids was just part of the past, and it's something we have to accept.
Is Ryan Braun a Hall of Famer?
No, because he does not have the correct... He didn't contribute as much to the game as someone like Alex Rodriguez or David Ortiz did. And it's not all about hitting home runs and batting average. It's because he just wasn't consistent throughout his years as a Brewer.
So he got a 50-game suspension for PEDs, and he's not even considered. But if you did have the longevity of a career like a Barry Bonds, who played 22 seasons in the MLB, Ken Griffey Jr. also played 22 seasons, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So what's the difference there?
It depends how you take care of your body, Matt. I think that if you're eating right, if you're doing the little things right while you're young, I don't think that steroids necessarily make you be able to play longer. I think they just help your muscles, and it's all about the choices you make at the end of the day if you're going to be able to play harder.
Yes, but if you're talking about the longevity of a career, Barry Bonds and Ken Griffey Jr. had the same career. And if you break it down the stats, they're kind of similar. One has more than the other and vice versa. But then you break it down to who's got. Then Barry Bonds is known for, obviously, the PED use and the drug use, and so that could be the reason why he's not in.
But although it was an era that a lot of people hate, I think it's a part of history you can't change. Honestly, I think a lot of people did it back then, but that doesn't make it right necessarily. I think just because it's impossible to point out players that did it that they don't know that did it, if that makes sense. Because you can't just rule out players just because they're better at hiding it. I think that just makes no sense.
Yes, but even though they all used it, or you don't know that they used it. They didn't find that they used it, because then we don't know if Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey Jr. did use it. We don't know, because the stats may not, because we don't know the stats that are of the not using it. And so if Ken Griffey Jr.'s stats are inflated because of PED use, then how do you know if Ken Griffey Jr.'s stats are not? And so I guess you just have to play it as on a neutral field and then break it down and break the stats down and see which one is better and which one should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Because Baseball Hall of Fame is a selected class, and only the few get in or selected or elected into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just so impossible to know who did it and who didn't. But when it comes to how harsh of a punishment it is, I think they should still be allowed. And when you said the stats that they accumulate, I think you're thinking more about the stats in terms of a career basis. But year to year, they're doing the same stuff that these players do nowadays.
You're still then looking at the career stats, but then that's how we're basing this, because you have to go, how are you judged by getting into the Hall of Fame is by your stats.
That's true. Next up, the bright future of sports gambling in the USA, right after this commercial break.
At the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, we're passionate about learning. Our talented faculty members blend teaching with research, creating hands-on learning experiences for students. Warhawk Pride thrives at UW-Whitewater, where student-athletes excel on the field and in the classroom, where diversity is celebrated. A tradition of excellence. Find your passion here.
Video One Media Services provides accomplished students the opportunity to enhance their college experience by working with real-world clients. In addition, we provide clients local and affordable video options to better enhance their media needs. For more information on how Video One Media Services can help you with your next media project, email or call our office at 262-472-5659.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
Practicing social distancing is imperative to maintaining safety in the residence halls this year in lounges and common areas. For kitchens and laundry rooms, we have capped occupancy at 2 students in these spaces at any given time. Students will not be allowed to wait for their laundry in the laundry rooms, and if 2 students are already in the space switching laundry, please wait outside for one to leave. We ask that those using these spaces are efficient with their time, so all students have the option to use the common areas as needed. We thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Welcome back to Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule. Sports gambling companies like FanDuel and DraftKings are getting more and more popular, leading many states seeing dollar signs and legalizing sports gambling. Is it time for all states to legalize this sports gambling?
I think most states should try and get it legalized because I think that it can offer a new perspective and a newfound fun and enjoyment for these sports. I think that there's more analytics going into gambling than ever before, and you even have ESPN shows and ESPN jobs dedicated to analytics. There's more jobs being created from this, and I think that this will only benefit and increase going forward.
I'm going to say no. I think this will ruin the sport. Gambling on sports will slowly change it in America. As with everything that involves money, this game, all the sports will be more commercialized, and that could lead to things such as it being more about money and not even about the game. And the game is what it's supposed to be about. I think if you're putting money in it, you could be like, hey, Roger Goodell, here's 50 grand. Can you go rig the Super Bowl for me? And that's what a lot of people will think will happen.
But yes, but we talked about in the first segment that these sporting leagues aren't getting enough money. So maybe that could be a good thing.
But the amount of money that one can bring in, let's take an example from Rhode Island. 51% of the money that the better wins from gambling goes to the state. So how is that helping the people who are trying to do this and who are gaining money from this?
Yes, but you're still going in with an educated guess. I mean, you're following the analytics, you're following the bets, you're following the odds of all the people who know what they're talking about. Yeah, you may lose, but then you also may, on the flip side, gain the money.
Yeah, but I just think that this will rise in it'll lead to a rise in gambling addiction. And do you think lives can be ruined from this?
I think they could if people don't handle it in the way that they're supposed to. Like, they have help for people who have gambling addictions. They have help centers. There are people who are there to help if you do have this addiction. And I think that if you are willing to have the help, you can easily have this not affect your life.
But Matt, what if you say that legalizing gambling should be legal? Then all that leads to is more people with a bigger encouragement to then gamble.
But then you have to make sure that you have the cautions in your own head and knowing your limits and knowing the spending amount that you have. This is only for a fun and the enjoyment and a new way to find a new passion for sports. And again, I think the financial effect could be a positive thing for these leagues.
Absolutely. That'll do it for us here tonight. Thank you for watching, and tune in next time to hear more hot takes all around the world of sports. This has been Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule on UWW-TV.